Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my faithful co-host and my adoring wife, Sara Coryell.
Hey, it's great to be here. Always.
Always?
Always, yeah.
Okay. Always. Even when we're arguing or have a disagreement?
Well, you can't solve it if you go away, so yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, just thought I'd clarify that. All right. What's happening in your life? What are you excited about?
Oh, I'm just trying to keep up with everybody. You and Cedar both come up with new jobs, and it's gotten really crazy around here. And, still it's summertime with all the different kinds of work to do around here. It's busy.
Yeah.
Good busy, but wow, busy.
Well, yeah, I'm busy. I'm kind of wiped out right now. You guys don't know, I started a job. It's a security gig, at a sports bar. And it's an interesting job because I get to study people and their mating habits.
Their mating habits.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Well, pre-mating habits, right? I mean, I go there and I'll, there are like 20 large screen televisions all over the place. And, you'll see different people come in. There's some of them are like family members, husband, wife with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually go over to the arcade or the restaurant to eat. The couples that come in, you can tell the ones that are on their first date because they start out kind of standoffish, but then after 3 or 4 drinks,
Not standoffish anymore.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they've known each other for all their lives. I'm not sure that's good.
No, it seems, I don't, it seems kind of sad, actually. Like,
Yeah.
places to get to know a person. It's not really their native environment
But
anyways.
yeah, that's one of the things alcohol does. It lowers all your inhibitions and you do things that you normally wouldn't do. But
Yeah.
the good news is that the people that work there, they're good people. They're hard workers. They treat me right.
That's great. It
Yeah.
is great. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. I didn't know what to expect. Okay, you're going to go be a security at a sports bar.
Yeah, in a security gig like that, it's usually incredibly boring until it's not boring, and then everything just goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
So
You want to talk about
fortunately, yeah.
your work partner on Saturday night? What had he gone through?
Oh yeah. He got attacked by 20 teenagers.
Like 3 years ago?
No, this was just this past weekend, and it was terrible, but he's okay, and that's the way security jobs are, either really boring or way too exciting.
Yeah, it was just kind of mind-blowing to me that had happened to him on Friday night. Well, like just the night before, and then he was working with you Saturday.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, this is kind of crazy.
All right, well, hey, enough of work. Let's talk about work.
Life
All
is
right,
good.
what do we have on the show today?
Well, today we are talking to Peacewalker and Krav Maga instructor Craig Gray. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be talking to an attorney and firearms instructor, Deron Boring, where we get some expert advice on how to handle a dog attack.
But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Apple Tree Media. So what's in the news today, Sarah?
We've got an interesting story for you guys. Michigan gun rights advocate and rocker Ted Nugent, testifying before lawmakers in Lansing on Wednesday, freely passed through a weapons security detector at the Capitol with a gun without being stopped. The Detroit News reported it. Guns are banned from the Capitol. The trooper staffing the entry point did not see the alert until after Mr. Nugent left the screening area, said Shannon Banner, a spokeswoman for the Michigan State Police, according to Beth LeBlanc of the News. After testifying against regulations and enforcement by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, state police and the Capitol spoke to Nugent about the weapons ban, and he complied, Banner said. The breach is under review. Democratic State Representative Laura Pahutsky told the News she notified state police that Nugent had a gun while testifying, but they didn't address the issue until afterward.
What do you think about that?
Well, I hope he doesn't get in trouble, and I'm glad that sounds like he was respectful and everything got handled just fine. It's kind of interesting that their security was so lax.
Yeah, he's not going to get in trouble. I mean, they say that it's still under investigation or whatever, but what is there to investigate? He either walked in knowing it was a ban and disregarded it, or he just didn't know because Ted has been to the Capitol many times, and we didn't have this ban in place until I think last year. Yeah. So he probably didn't even realize it because he'd been there so many times before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, I used to do security for Ted on his book signings and his events and things like that. And I remember usually they were at a pistol-free zone, and he would walk up to the stage, and one of the first things he would say was, before I got here, this was a pistol-free zone. And then everyone would laugh, because he's a reserve officer with Lake County.
Oh, okay.
Here in Michigan. But I think probably the Michigan State Police guy that's manning the magnetometer, he may have just looked up and go, whoa, there's Ted Nugent, right?
Could have, yeah.
They probably knew he was coming in advance, but Ted has this presence about him.
He's really tall.
Well, he's tall, but he's larger than life. He's a rock star. So when people see him, it's like Ted sucks all the oxygen out of the room and he just kind of takes over because he's just so incredibly confident.
Yeah.
But hey, anyways, it's a stupid gun ban anyways. Our beloved governor and all the Democrats, that's what they wanted, and that affects the Second Amendment March when we do our rallies there.
Yeah, it's quite an irritation.
It's stupid because we've been without a ban for the history of the state capitol without any altercations. Now all of a sudden, we need to ban guns from the Capitol. It's all political. All right, but hey, what about our hero of the week? And this is, I don't know, this one is a mixed bag. Tell us about it, Sarah.
This is kind of a hard story, but there's some real bravery that was shown here. At least 25 people have been killed and 63 others wounded in a suicide bomb attack at a church in Damascus, Syria's health ministry has said. A man opened fire with a weapon at the Christian Orthodox Church of the Prophet Elias in the Dweiler neighborhood during a service on Sunday morning before detonating an explosive vest, according to the Interior Ministry. It said the attacker was affiliated with the jihadist group Islamic State. There was no immediate claim from the group itself. Photos and videos from inside the church showed a heavily damaged altar, pews covered in broken glass, and blood spattered across the walls. Witness Lawrence Mamari told news agency AFP that someone entered the church from outside carrying a weapon and began shooting. People tried to stop him before he blew himself up, he added. Another man who was in a nearby shop said he heard gunfire followed by an explosion that sent glass flying. We saw fire in the church and the remains of wooden benches thrown all the way to the entrance, Ziad said. It was the first such attack in Damascus since Islamist-led rebel forces overthrew Bashar al-Assad in December, ending 13 years of devastating civil war. The Christian Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch said in a statement, "The treacherous hand of evil struck this evening, claiming our lives along with the lives of our loved ones who fell today as martyrs during the Divine Liturgy." According to initial information, the bomb blast occurred at the entrance to the church, resulting in the deaths of people who were both inside the building and in the immediate vicinity, it added. The Patriarchate called upon Syria's interim authorities to assume full responsibility for what has happened and continues to happen in terms of violation against the sanctity of churches and to ensure the protection of all citizens.
All right, well, there's a lot of interesting things about that article, Sarah.
There was a lot of different articles and a lot of different things that I got to hear and to see about this over the last few days. There were three young men, right around 20 years old. They said they were all from the same family. Nobody said they were all brothers, so we're hoping
They were in
had
their 20s.
their 20s somewhere.
What were their names?
Jiris, Bishara, and Boutros.
Say that 3 times fast. Jiris, Bishara, and Boutros.
They saw this guy come into the main part of the church shooting at people and strapped in bombs. They tackled him and dragged him out into the outer area of the church, and that's where he detonated the bomb. So that's why there was only, some articles say 22, some articles say 25 people that died, but there was 250 people that were estimated at the church that day, and that was what he was trying to get, was all those people. He wanted to go into the center of the main area and explode himself there.
20-some killed, 60-some wounded.
Yeah.
This was
He was
incredible. By American standards, this was just incredible. Because that's one thing that we in America have not had to deal with, are suicide bombings.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's just beyond our comprehension that someone would do that.
Yeah.
Here in America, people, they use guns for this, and then they're usually suicide bombings because they end up killing themselves or being killed. So, but it's different. If these 3 young men hadn't sacrificed their lives, there would have been hundreds, probably 200 dead.
Yeah. It might have damaged the structure of the church enough to bring part of it down too.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
we saw pictures. It was really,
it's a huge building,
really
lots
terrible.
of stone everywhere. If they'd have had a bomb go off right there, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was very brave of them to do that, and
it's interesting.
Condolences to their family.
It's interesting that they're right here in Michigan, near Detroit, at Cross Point Community Church. There was an attack on a church, not with a suicide vest, because that just doesn't happen in America, but with an AR-15 and a handgun. But in this case, he was stopped outside the church by the armed church security team.
Okay.
He was run over by a truck.
What? Oh.
Yes, he was run over by a truck and then shot by 2 armed church safety team members.
The truck didn't do the job good enough.
No, it must have broke his hip or something, because he was sitting down on the ground, but he kept firing at people.
Did he really?
Yes, he shot one church safety member in the leg, but that was the only injury because they were able to stop him before he got into the church.
Wow.
I wish that could have happened here, but these 3 men, didn't they proclaim them as martyrs of the church?
They are saying everybody who died in that was a martyr. So
okay,
yeah, because they were at church and they got killed because they were at church. So
well, in my mind, these
3 were special.
3,
yeah,
they sacrificed their lives,
yeah,
to save other people.
Yep.
That makes them heroes.
Yep.
In my book.
Mm-hmm. It was an amazing story. Sad, amazing story.
Very sad, but I don't know. What do you think about this? It's like I'm happy that they did what they did. I'm sad that they had to die for it, but that's kind of like, we'll hear all these stories, war stories, where soldiers will jump on a hand grenade to save their comrades. That's basically what happened.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very large hand grenade, and there was just no neutralizing that.
They said there was nothing left of the boys.
All right. Well, hey, they're in heaven now, and they're all back in one piece. That's how we have to look at it. But we should just be praying for this particular church, St. Elias, St. Elias in Damascus, Syria, because all of the Christians there are under attack by Islamic State. So remember them in your prayers. Let's move on. What do we got coming up, Sarah?
Next, we are talking to Peacewalker and Krav Maga instructor Craig Gray. Then in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be talking to an attorney and firearms instructor, Deron Boring, where we get some expert advice on how to handle a dog attack.
In the meantime, God bless and stay safe, and don't forget to pray for St. Elias Church in Damascus, Syria, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
They say he eats crayons and his knuckles drag on the ground, but that's only half true. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coriel.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Appletree Media. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now I'd like to welcome Peacewalker and Krav Maga instructor Craig Gray from Michigan. Craig, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
How you doing, Skip?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm probably doing as well as anybody else is these days, maybe better. But I got to tell you, I had bad dreams again last night, and I had bad dreams the night before that. And I'm just wondering, maybe, when I'm awake, I'm pretty positive. I try to stay positive, right? But if you watch the news lately, it's difficult to be positive and stay positive. And I've heard that you're an expert at positivity. So how do we get the whole world to join hands in a circle around the campfire and sing Kumbaya?
Never happened. It'll never happen.
But we have to try, right? I mean, that's what Peacewalker is all about. or
Yeah,
part of it anyways.
doesn't mean we can't try. But conflict is a part of our lives, and there's no denying it. And I think it's really about, how do you approach conflict in a positive way, understanding that it's there, it's going to be there, it's not going to go away. It may alter and change its forms, but there's always something going on. Like you were saying in the news today, there's a lot going on. We've got, the scene feels like we're on the cusp of World War III. There's riots going on, there's political unrest. There's, if you're here in Michigan and, Wayne, Michigan, there was an active shooting event at a church, or thwarted attempt anyways. There's always something going on. There's some things going on in our personal lives, and the macro affects the micro, so to speak, meaning our environment affects us as human beings and individuals. And we really have to be able to manage that. Otherwise, it's going to wreck us.
Yeah. It almost seems like you can pick your crisis. You can pick your hot spot and you can focus on one. I don't know how you focus on all of them at the
Yeah.
same time. It's
Yeah.
just overwhelming.
That's one of the things, the double-edged sword of our life today in today's society, with this incredibly powerful instruments of knowledge and doom at the same time. The being online and the computers and AI and social media and supercomputers and all this kind of stuff. They're incredibly powerful, but also it's incredibly dangerous for us as individuals because it is overwhelming. We have access to more information than we ever have in our history, and a lot of it's not even real. And even the stuff that is factual, the way that it's spun and the way that you perceive it, and things that you don't have any control over really can rev us up and make life miserable for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading your last email newsletter again just this morning. And, one of the things that you talked about was basically how business people capitalize or focus in on some type of a catastrophe. For example, you just brought up like riots. Okay, so people who are in the business of being paid to, prepare people for self-defense or things like that, they can use that to scare people into giving them money for training or products or whatever. And I just see that all the time, just in my email inbox.
Yeah, I call it ambulance chasers, in the old days. Remember, the lawyers that would chase ambulances so they can get some class action lawsuit, or sue someone. Same thing in our industry. We know that there are people who will chase these catastrophes and over catastrophize things. It's good for business. I don't think it's being that ethical, and it's not always being, I think, conscious of doing the right thing for the people that you're trying to educate and help. Yes, there are things going on. There are dangerous situations. There's dangerous people. There's dangerous countries. There's dangerous situations that you have to and want to learn how to deal with. But if you live in that constant state of paranoia, a constant state of, it's always bad, everybody's a killer, it's really a bad life. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to start, if your only tool is a hammer, not only are you going to start looking for nails, you're going to start creating nails.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
become the thing that you're trying to protect yourself and your loved ones from.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it's like I'm always, for me personally and my family, I'm always trying to find balance.
Yep.
And it just seems like I'm a pendulum and I'm going back and forth. And it's like I achieve balance for like a millisecond. And
Right.
then, yeah, and then I'm swinging back the other way. And oh, come on, Skip, get your, your head out of the clouds. And I go swing back. And maybe part of the key is spend a longer amount of time in that one balance point, or to swing back faster, or whatever. But it's difficult, especially it seems like in the last 8 years or so. If you want to date it maybe to like the last round of riots that we had, like, spawning from, BLM or Ferguson riots, those kind of things. And then COVID right on top of that. It
Well, say you're
seems
talking
like,
Ferguson, that was 2016, so that's
yeah,
about 10.
so that's 9 years. Yeah, 9, 10 years. It just seems like we're living inside a pressure cooker, and people seem to be more uptight than they were 20 years ago.
That's my perception of it as well. I think you could probably dig into that research and find that it's supported by at least research. But again, you can spin these a lot of different ways, but that's my personal perception of it. We are a lot more polarized today, a lot more political today. With identity politics, there's a lot less tolerance, which is very interesting to me.
Hmm.
Uh, and it seems to be we're living in a pressure cooker. I agree. There's always something going on. One of my degrees is in history, so understanding history, and I'm not claiming to be a historian or anything like that. It's
But that
but
that helps because it gives you perspective.
it does. At least it has me, anyways. And there's always much of history is written on conflicts
Yeah.
when change has happened. And believe it or not, we still live in one of the most, if not arguably the most peaceful times in historical record. But you wouldn't think of it that way. The
Yeah.
way that social media and traditional media plays it out, it's like we're on the brink of total annihilation all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And at some point, they're going to be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
probably not
that's true.
today.
Well, that reminds me, I grew up in like the 60s and then early 70s, right? And I graduated from high school like in 1975. So that tells you the culture that I grew up in,
Right.
right? And I lived out a rural area about halfway between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids. So
Okay.
two small cities, right?
Yep.
And it was during the height of the Cold War. And it's like we would do duck and cover drills,
Yep.
in school. And it's like, okay, yeah, don't forget, point your feet towards the blast so that they get incinerated first, right? It's like that never made a lot of, even as like a 10-year-old, it's like I could figure that out, right? But I remember sitting out there in the front yard at night, and I could look to the north and I would see the lights in the clouds over Grand Rapids. I could look to the south, I'd see the lights in the clouds over Kalamazoo. And I would, as a 12-year-old, I'm thinking, gosh, I hope I'm far enough away. But what does that do to the psyche of a child when they grow up in that and that becomes normal to them? I think that's probably the biggest difference than, like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago when you have, Mongol hordes or the Crusades or whatever, big war that was going on. That's different.
Yeah, I mean, news traveled fast, travels faster now. It traveled very slowly back then. Back in historical times, and not even so far removed from our modern times, but we were much closer to violence and much closer to death. It was, take, for example, funeral homes. You take a funeral home or funeral
Yeah.
parlor.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they call it a funeral home, because you used to have your funerals at your house, right?
Yeah.
People oftentimes lived on farms or near farms, and they saw the slaughtering of the animals that you would consume, and medical, where the doctors with house calls. I mean, that wasn't that far away. My mother was born in my grandma's house. I'm a little younger than you. I graduated in 88, and I can also remember doing I don't know what they called them at the time, but nuclear bomb drills where we'd go
Oh
in the
yeah,
house
yeah.
with the books over our heads as if that would do anything.
Yes.
I
Get
still
you
have
what you want is Tolstoy's War and Peace over your head. That's what you want.
well, I can remember, and I probably still have it someplace. I know I saved it. I'm sure it's in some, and it was in the early 80s, maybe 80, 81, possibly 82. There was an article on the cover of the Grand Rapids Press, and it had if a nuclear bomb were to ignite in the middle of downtown, how much time would you have? And it kind of had this, picture
Mm.
of how many seconds or minutes that you would have depending on where you lived and what would happen and all this. Like, holy cow, that's pretty graphic, especially
Yeah.
like you were saying, as a young kid. I was, 10, 11, 12 years old, thinking about being incinerated by, a Soviet bomb.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, hey, Johnny, what do you want to be if you grow up? That's kind of the deal. Not when you grow up, but if you grow up.
Right. Well, and there's realities of it. I have friends and colleagues over in Israel right now that have been under missile and bomb threats for the past, well, forever, I guess, if you
Yeah, yeah.
that people don't really realize it to the degree that it has been, since October 7th, what, a year ago, October 7th. But they're always under threat of missile attack and active terrorist attack and you know
Well, yeah,
that
it
type
seems
of
to
thing.
go in cycles over there.
It does.
Even like 10 years ago, it was like rockets coming in from Gaza or the Gaza Strip or whatever from terrorist groups.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not reported on.
Yeah,
I've been
because
over to
it's not
Israel.
news. It's same old, same old.
Well, and again, I mean, if you take the narrative of the news, if Israel's getting attacked under most circumstances, they're not really reporting about it so much. When
True. Yeah.
back in the day when Gaza was attacking regularly areas outside of Gaza, you typically didn't hear about it until the war, but it happened all the time.
If you were to go to Israel and do some of your Peacewalker training there, what would you tell the Israeli people to help them cope with everything that they're going through?
They're pretty positive, to be honest with you. I mean, some of the
Really?
perspectives
That surprises me, everything they're going through.
most of them are pretty positive, at least that I talked to. Obviously, I can only speak from my personal experiences. Most of them have to keep a pretty positive attitude about life and about things. Not to say they're not afraid, not to say that there isn't hesitation there and concern. I'm not saying that. But they live in the middle of it all the time.
Hmm.
So their mindset has to be something that points towards life if they're going to get on with things. Just like I also know, and I've traveled to South Korea
Mm,
in the
yeah.
past, where the threat of North Korea and China is looming and has been looming for decades.
Yeah.
So they've gotta live life.
Yeah.
So it brings us to there's a good friend of mine, we call him Buddha, it's his nickname. Real name's Will, but he was in the military and he was at one of my seminars one time and we were talking about awareness skills and situational awareness, and he coined this phrase, awareanoid. And I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
Buddha, I'm gonna steal that from you, my friend. So awareanoid is just south of paranoid, but
Hmm.
just north of aware.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think a really good book to read for some of the things that we're talking about right now is Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And
man's
many of
search for
you,
meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
And it's a somber book because some of you may know out there, Viktor Frankl was in the Holocaust and I believe he was at Auschwitz. He was at one of the death camps, and he was one of the few people that survived. None of his family did, most of his friends didn't, but he survived. And he was a doctor, I believe of psychology, if I remember correctly. But that event could have destroyed his life for having the view of humanity that it was just evil and wrong and bad. And look, it killed almost our entire Jewish community, but it definitely killed all of his family. And he could have gone down the dark path even after surviving. many Holocaust survivors did, right? Many of them committed suicide. Many of them never spoke again of it, and they dealt in quiet suffering. But Victor did not. He went around and he wanted to understand more about the idea of genocide, which many people don't realize that the term genocide came out of the Holocaust. There wasn't a term genocide before the Holocaust. So the term itself came out of the Holocaust. We're trying to eradicate the Jews. And Victor took that sorrow and that pain that he had, as well as his education, and he went and he spoke about genocide and the Holocaust, and he wrote books about it. He taught about it. So hopefully it would never happen again. Now, obviously, arguably so, it has happened and it continues to happen, or at least the attempt of it. This goes back to our original point of our conversation. Don't stop trying.
Right.
Are you going to be a force for good? Or are you going to get swept up in the hate, in the anger, in the frustration, in the negativity of all the bad? Because it'll change it'll change your life. I don't know, when I see these extremists and pick your flavor of whatever extremist it is, could be political, could be religious, could be economical, could be a lot of things. Haven't seen any of them that looked like they're living a good life.
Yeah,
Like,
they don't look happy, do they?
No, they're all angry. They're mad. They're angry, and they're hateful. Not just angry, but hateful. There's one thing being angry about something. There's another thing of just being angry about life. And if life doesn't fit your little view of it, that you got to hurt and kill people to change their minds, or to get them to believe the way that you believe, or that some people just need to be eradicated off the face of the earth. I don't know any extremist of any type, people that I know personally who are, I'll say mini extremists, whether it's the left or the right or whatever, whatever their views are, or it's, bigger folks that are jihadists and whatnot. They're not happy. They're not living good lives. The other thing too is I don't see the leaders committing suicide over their causes.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. That
why
they
do we
send
have
other
to go out and
people.
look for Osama bin Laden? Why didn't he give his life for his cause? Why did we have to go and get Saddam Hussein? What about Gaddafi? Why didn't these guys die for their cause?
Because they were at the top of the food chain.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right. So what's the answer then? What would you tell Americans today then about maintaining their sanity and their peace and their happiness in the times that we live in right now?
Number one is be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. Strive for the things that you want, but be grateful for what you have. And the little things, the small little things. Most people have never lived lives like we have.
That's true.
Royalty, even a couple hundred years ago, royalty didn't have the conveniences.
Yeah, they didn't have refrigeration, air conditioning,
indoor plumbing, a computer assistant that you hold in your hand that you can communicate with people all around the world at any point in time for pennies.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the people in your life that you love. Be ready to defend them and protect them, but be grateful for them right now. Understand, I love the serenity prayer. Understand what you can change and what is beyond your capacity to change.
Yeah.
Well, here's a little story. I'll make it short. Long time ago, I dated this gal, and she had 2 cats. One cat was called Spirit. It was very spirited. That's why we called him Spirit. It was a little black and white cat, and it was very frisky. It was just a very spirited cat. And then there was another one, the orange one, called Jasper. And those two got along. They were best of buds. Jasper, unfortunately, when it was a young kitty, it had an eye infection, and I was tasked with putting the drops in. So and I think I wrecked Jasper because he did not like getting, the drops put in his eyes. So now I'd have to wrangle him up and kind of pin him down and put the drops in. And He would be loving once in a while, but most of the time he was, two steps off from being feral. He didn't really care for people, probably because of that. But Jasper and Spirit got along really well. Well, there was a period of time to where we started seeing these tufts of Jasper's fur all over and cat pee and poop all over, and they would fight. And I'm like, why are they fighting? And they only would fight in certain times of the day. So I kind of did put my Sherlock Holmes hat on, and I started kind of paying attention to things. And what I saw was there was a stray cat that would stand outside of the door where Spirit could see him.
Hmm.
And Spirit was very territorial, and he couldn't get to the cat. So he would, bang on the door and try to scare it away, and he would meow and hiss at it. But the cat would just stand there and look at him like, you can't get to me. I'm going to do what I want. And it would only be certain times of the day. And after that would happen, like clockwork, Spirit would go and beat the hell out of Jasper. Because Spirit couldn't control the cat, it would control what was within its realm to control.
Yeah.
Don't be Spirit.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be Spirit. You and I cannot control if we end up in World War III.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
You and I can't control a riot if we're in the middle of a riot. We can control how we're going to engage. We can control how we're going to leave, usually, if you do it soon enough.
Yeah.
Focus on the things you can control, not on the things you can't control. Have some faith. There's a good time. I'm not a very religious guy. I feel I'm very spiritual, but I'm not very religious. I don't really resonate with organized religion so much. But that doesn't matter. What matters is if you believe in something bigger than yourself, have some faith. You can call it God, you can call it the universe, Jesus. I don't care what you believe in, as long as you can do that and not harm other people if they don't believe what you believe in. But believe in something bigger and something good. Have some faith.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing that does help me, recognizing that God is in control, higher power is in control. And there's a verse that I like, in the Bible, and it talks about, your thought process. It says, whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, think on these things. And for me, that helps me through a lot of the times that we're in, because, okay, yeah, you can say, hey, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, but then I look inside my own home and I got a wife who loves me. I've got 3 kids here that come and greet me when I come home, from work.
Yeah.
And, I got a lot of really, really good things. So all good advice, but we're almost out of time, Craig. So what I want you to do is spend a minute talking about your Peacewalker program and how people can get subscribed to your newsletter, because that really does help me, encourage me as well.
I really appreciate you being a part of that and on that. Peacewalker is an initiative that I started quite a long time ago now. And it's training, right? It's this idea of a transformation. And it encompasses your mindset, so your ability to understand ethics and who you really are, your ability to stay calm, cool, and collected under pressure and stress. So the second pillar really is about your awareness skills, situational awareness of oneself, awareness of other people. And then your influence skills. So how do you influence circumstances? Starting with yourself. Basically, I help people know what to do when nice doesn't work. But that starts with inside of you, but also with other people. Things like leadership, de-escalation strategies, persuasion strategies. What do you do? How do you de-escalate somebody? How do you lead people? And then finally, action skills, which is, what do you do when that doesn't work? So physical defensive tactics, staying healthy and in shape. So it's kind of this, like the whole enchilada, so to speak, of being a protector, starting with the ethic of being a protector that all life is precious. And in our field, we've got to separate someone's life value from their behaviors and have skills to deal with behaviors that could put somebody, including yourself, at risk. And then all the way to, if you really have to take action to do something to protect yourself or someone else. So that's kind of an overview of it, I suppose. And if you want to get involved and get on my newsletter and get some more information and training and join the community, get on peacewalker.mn.co. That's peacewalker.mn, martinnancy.co. And that will get you involved in our private community. So it's not on Facebook, it's a private community. And then it'll also get you on our newsletters, where almost every day I send out a little story that helps to teach and to inspire.
Yeah, I like your stories, Craig. They're down to earth and they're personal. I just love a good story. I mean, that you just told a story about the two cats. I love that too. So, but I'm a storyteller myself. So, but hey, Craig, thank you very much for your perspective, for your positive attitude, and for the way you inspire and encourage people. You have great training.
Thanks for having me on again, Skip. I really appreciate it, man. Keep going, keep doing what you're doing out there, training people to be better protectors. We need that. We need that now. We've always needed it, and we certainly need it today. So keep going, man.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll be speaking with attorney and self-defense instructor Deron Boring from Ohio in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, where we get some expert advice on the details of self-defense. But during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I've posted a series of entertaining and educational videos there just for you. Check them out, and don't forget to like, share, and follow. God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
He's no Einstein, but he can read and write and feed himself just like a big boy. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Apple Tree Media, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with attorney and self-defense instructor Deron Boring from the great state of Ohio. Deron, thanks for coming back on the Home Defense Show today.
Always fun being here, Skip.
Yeah, and Deron, we've got something that we're going to talk about. When did we talk about this particular case? It was a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
It was either right before or right after Christmas, I think.
Yeah, I think it was right around Christmas time. We talked about this article about a dog attack. Or I guess an alleged dog attack, and a concealed carry holder, intervening using deadly force. We talked about that, and I remember afterwards, you said, I'm going to follow this to see, what the disposition is on this and see what happens. So, but Deron, before we launch into that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refresh everyone's memory. This happened in Canton, Ohio, and the article, Deron, I'm not real fond of this article. It just seems like it was written by PETA, but it is what it is. It says 9-month-old dog shot, killed in Canton by stranger before Christmas. And it says the Allen family had only had Rocco in their lives for a few months, but in a house full of girls, he had already become the man of the house. He was just about to have his first Christmas, his first birthday, owner April Allen said. Last Tuesday, Allen's 2 oldest children were getting off of their school bus when they were greeted by their family dog, Rocco. According to Allen, a man stuck in nearby traffic thought Rocco was being too rough. That's when he stepped out of his vehicle and proceeded to shoot him over 5 times until he died. It's a lot of ways that it could have went about than just pulling out a gun and shooting, Allen said. If you're protecting children, why are you pulling out guns in front of children? How is that protecting her eyes? She's traumatized. The man has been charged with the crime is 26-year-old Gary Curtis Hudson. He's facing 4 charges, including discharging a weapon into home or school, prohibitions concerning companion animals, criminal damaging and endangering, and aggravated trespass. What made it so bad was the school bus drivers even had gifts waiting for Rocco to run up to the school to be like, "Hey, Rocco," and say Merry Christmas because that was their last day of school, Allen said. After the attack, Rocco was cremated, but Allen says it will never be the same. It hit me hard, like I didn't expect the emotion that I even felt, Allen said. But to see him like that and to see him on the ground like that, just lifeless, it tore me up. The Stark County Sheriff's Office is still investigating the case. Well, they're done investigating the case now. And, I got to tell you, I don't like that article, the way it's written, Deron. If they hadn't told us that Rocco was a dog, I would have thought this was a human that had been shot. But, what are your initial thoughts on this?
The journalistic integrity of any of the reporting on this story and either the article you have or the other ones that I've found out have been pretty, I don't want to call it hilarious, but they're pretty bad. And just to recap my thoughts on last time, I don't want to rehash everything again, but my general opinion on this was the guy that jumped out of the car, pulled a pistol, and immediately dispatched the dog without, at least from any accounts that I've seen, without any inquiry or, okay, do you need help, anything like that. Probably not the wisest thing. So I'm certainly not going to say that this guy's behavior is exactly what a model armed citizen should do. On the other hand, and again, I said this in our last podcast about this, that the overcharging on this is ridiculous. And I think it's worth noting that you listed 4 charges. Of those 4 charges, the criminal damaging and endangering, the aggravated trespass, and the felony discharge of a firearm in a school safety zone, those charges all went away after the news article. And if we notice, there have been no subsequent articles anywhere saying that those 3 charges disappeared. Thus left standing when the case went to trial last week was simply the felony abuse of a companion animal. And in Ohio, long story made short, Ohio has a famed meteorologist, Dick Goddard, out of Cleveland, that was an animal rights activist. And so it's called Goddard's Law in Ohio after Ohio's own Dick Goddard. And this is what he was charged under, which was basically a felony animal abuse statute. So we have 4 charges, went down to 1. That 1 charge did have a firearm specification on it, and no coverage on any of that. And this gentleman was found not guilty by a jury in Ohio last week. And do you think I found one news article about his 4 trumped up charges turning into 1, turning into an acquittal last week? Nope, not one, nowhere. Everything I've figured out about the case has been what I've pulled off of court records myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you figure out? I mean, did he have a side to his story? Was there another side, or was it all PETA?
Here's exactly what I think, and again, this is conjecture on my part, and I know that only gets you so far. But
well, it's okay. We're not in court. We're not in court, and you're not under oath.
So there was another article actually in the Canton, Ohio repository, which is, all under the USA Today umbrella, and say what you will about that. That quoted one of the other witnesses, and I thought the article was interesting. That the other witness that saw this went from, she stopped her car and jumped out as well because she saw this little girl crying and trying to get away from the dog, to, oh my God, this guy killed a dog. What a horrible human being. Mm-hmm. So there's a part of me that wonders if they put this other witness on the witness stand and she testified to both sides of that, did that just put enough doubt in the jury's mind that they absolutely in no way could convict the guy? Because if you read this woman's statement in the Canton paper, it was as contradictory as it gets. I stopped because I was afraid for this little girl, but I can't believe this guy shot the dog to save the little girl.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't seem consistent to me somehow.
Again, everything I pulled together, she was one of the witnesses in the case because they subpoenaed some people, and I'm going to bet $5 she was one of the ones she was subpoenaed. And I'm guessing her testimony wasn't much better than that.
Yeah. Well, my view has always been, unless you're guilty, or for sure that you're going to be convicted, you don't plead down to something. Yep. You take it to a jury. Is that your view as well?
It is, and I think this guy played it right. I think there was enough doubt in this that he did the right thing. And interestingly enough, I did find that jury, not sure if the jury took a lunch break, but the jury went out to deliberate at 11:25. Mm-hmm. And by 1:20 something, the jury was done. And I'm guessing there was a lunch break in there. So it really didn't take them a whole long time to figure out that this guy probably was not guilty.
So they were just in it for the free pizza.
Yeah. I don't even know that they got that, but.
Wow. Well, journalism is just such a strange animal. When you mix journalism with the legal system, yep. I mean, I'm looking at the 26-year-old Gary Curtis Hudson right now, his picture, right? Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't let him date my daughter, okay, just by the way he looks.
Yeah.
He's not real photogenic, and, he's got tattoos coming up his chest onto his neck and his throat. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay. And then, this particular case, it reminded me of George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. Yep. Not because of what happened, but because the way it was covered. I mean, that it was like a human interest story, made by PETA. And you look at all the pictures, and the dog is a little tiny puppy in all of the pictures.
Yep.
But in reality, at the time of the shooting, the dog was 9 months old, and I believe, they said it was a pocket bully.
It was some type of 50. I think I saw 55 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. That I can't fit one of those in my pocket.
Nope.
And for me, if I would have seen, a 55, 60 pound dog on top of a little girl that I didn't know,
Yep.
I wouldn't have done what this man did the way he did it, but I would have stopped. I would have gotten out, and I probably would have started by yelling. And then if that didn't work, I would have given that dog a real swift kick to get
Yep.
him off. And then if the dog attacked me, well, all right, all bets are off. But
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just, this poor little 55-pound puppy pit bull was just.
You know,
I'm glad it went to trial. I really am.
I am too. And I every day I knew it was going to trial a week ago today. I, was just looking for what, the outcome on it was. And I've looked through every Cleveland, every Northeastern Ohio news outlet, and there is not one story about this guy's not guilty, which,
Yeah.
run the poor guy's name through the mud for what he did.
Yeah.
Don't cover, far fewer number of charges that he actually went to trial on than what he was initially charged with and pasted all over the media, to not a darn mention of this guy being found not guilty last week. Nowhere.
Yeah. Well, it's not a story anymore. It's only a
Nope.
story if he's savagely, shot and killed a dog in front of a 5-year-old owner. That's a story. But not guilty means no story.
And I'll tell you, there's one other lesson I need to pull out of this real quick. And I don't know. I'm doubting he testified, on his own behalf in this. But again, in looking at some of the news coverage, they had the audio clips from 911. And I guess that's my advice to people. Be really careful what you say on a 911. Because even if you choose not to testify in trial, guess what? What you have on a 911 tape is probably going into trial. So I actually think this guy's really lucky that he didn't get convicted.
So what did he say on the 911 that was endangering to him?
Well, so he said, I saw a dog attacking a little girl, and I went there to make sure everything was okay. The dog immediately charged me, and I discharged my weapon into the dog. I think at some point that may be helpful. It charged me.
Yeah.
But again, if you're saying that in the heat of the moment when you're panicked and, all the studies talk about, what your perception is with adrenaline in it, he may have been okay with what he said, but boy, it wouldn't have taken but one or two more sentences out of his mouth on that tape to get him in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you just read the article, you get a picture in your mind of a man seeing, the girl being, on the ground with the dog, but, and then he jumped out, ran over and pumped the dog full of holes, while, it was on top of the girl, which is like, okay, it's a miracle that the little girl wasn't shot too. That's the image that I get in my mind by reading this.
Well, and the best part is, and I could yammer about this case forever. He actually had the gun in a chest holster. So it was in a chest rig. So of course, he is being demonized in the article for, what kind of psychopath is a chest rig? Well, a guy that's going fishing, because that's exactly what he was doing.
So there was his side of a story. Cool. Well, I like doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, just because it's so interesting, and it's like it can go either way. It could have went either way for this guy, I think.
I was expecting a conviction. I was shocked. As much as I thought that woman's testimony may sink the case, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because everybody feels sorry for a little kid and their puppy, and I just didn't feel good about it.
Yeah, I know. People who love dogs, they really, really love dogs. And and my wife is a dog lover. She absolutely loves dogs. I don't like dogs. I'm not fond of them. You know, I could go my whole life without having a dog. But and when we got married, I told her, I said, we're not getting a dog. We will not get a dog. I want you to know that right out of the box. And of course, we have two dogs now.
Of
So
course.
you may have heard them barking in the background, you know, but regardless, all right, if this guy could do it over again and he was going to do it perfect, how would he handle this?
I think two things. One, and this is for myself, I carry pepper spray specifically for dogs. I walk in enough public places for exercise that my first choice is going to be gas the sucker before it starts chewing on my leg.
Yeah.
Second thing, and and he could have asked very easily, yell, does this little girl need help? Do you need help? Something like that. And I think that would have, at least given an answer one way or the other to where, mom or whoever could have yelled, no, that's our dog, and would have given him a chance to step back before, engaging
Yeah.
in, the lethal option. And again, the rules on dogs for lethal force very different than the rules on humans, but
That's exactly what I would say, Darren. I do the same thing as you. I carry pepper gel with me, especially when I'm going on walks or things like that, because it's
Mhm.
not that unusual to have a dog come out of a yard or to be off their leash and have them come after you when you're walking down the road.
Yep.
It's like a gun is not the preferred tool to do that because if you know anything about a dog's sense of smell, you know that they have, all of these, receptors on their nose because their sense of smell is incredible.
Mhm.
And so I gotta think you hit that thing with capsaicinoid, and it's going to be like shining a light in a bat's eyes, I think.
I
So,
think, and the other consideration to this, and I don't mean to go off on this rabbit trail, but I hate to say this, if you kill somebody else's dog, you may have bigger problems where you may need the gun again.
oh yeah,
You may be inviting a whole other circumstance of escalation that, look, you're going to have somebody mad enough, they may take a swing at you if you pepper spray them,
hmm
but you're at least leaving something on the table that
yeah.
you're right. People get very possessive about their dogs, and I can't tell you how many times I read comments online. If they hurt my dog, I'd kill them.
I know. Well, he beat the criminal rap, but this
Mhm.
is America. Anyone can sue anyone for anything. Is he open to susceptible to a civil court hearing now?
It's possible. I'm going to be very careful how I say this and say I don't think anybody has the resources to sue and or win much. I will tell you from having litigated cases with animals, the value of that dog, short of some sort of an emotional, intentional infliction of emotional, distress claim or something like that, I just don't see that going anywhere. Is it possible? Yes.
Well, I hope that this is laid to rest now, and nothing further comes of this other than the quote unquote good Samaritan maybe is a little wiser than he was 4 or 5 months ago.
I hope.
Yeah, well, I know I would, that's for sure. All right, well, Darren, thank you for the follow up on that. Good analysis. Where can people go to find out more about your services?
If they want to find out anything about me, they can go to shootingclasses.com, and I'm over there on 1791 training. And I offer primarily legal training. I'm a USCCA and an NRA certified instructor, but with my time schedule, I don't do a whole lot of that anymore. It's primarily legal instruction on lethal force law and concealed carry law and things like that. And I love doing that, and it's fun. And I do offer classes for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, Darren, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show today.
Thanks again, my friend.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, Apple Tree Media for website security, and the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. I've written 20 plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, The God Virus. It's a 4-book adventure series about a cyber terrorist attack causing the end of the world as we know it. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!